Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Post Plant. We are having our first episode today, introducing the lovely new host. Some of you might be old fans of the previous podcast, Protocol Unlocked, but we figured we would do a rebrand so that we can just get to meet new people, get to introduce new people, and just set 2022 with a bang, pretty much, because the Game Changer scene is pretty much hype and going to be set off with a bang with all of the things we have coming up. So, that being said, with today's episode, we're going to give a rough overview of what happened last year, set the scene, and then basically prepare you for what's going to happen for 2022. Some things have already happened in some of the regions, so we'll give you a little taste on what that has been like. And then, yeah, just continue to set the scene for the rest of the year. So we'll try our best to cover each of the regions for each episode. Today we have a bit of coverage for each region. So that way, those of you from NA, you get some exposure to the different regions as well, and those players also get some exposure. So let's get started. Doing NA first, right?
Yeah.
All right.
We
So,
are,
take it away.
and I guess that's my cue to kick things off.
Oh, well,
Those
wait,
who
we should introduce
Oh, we
ourselves.
should.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's a good idea.
It's a good.
All good.
Okay, back up, rewind. Okay, well, we just assumed everyone listened to our Twitter Spaces the other day, and so there was no need for introductions.
Mhm.
But let's do that anyway. So I am Lynn, but I go by Delta or Dr. Delta, and I'm an observer for Valorant. I'm also a journalist, and so, yeah, just trying to inform everyone what's going on in the Game Changer scene. Next.
Next. Who's next?
I'll go. So, hi guys, my name's Kipsy. Everyone else knows me as Chrissy sometimes, but you can call me whatever you want. I am a caster, and I'm a really competitive person. So obviously, I'm in the scene, all in it, and yeah, I can't wait to start all this with you guys.
All right, Spicy, you can go. You
want me to go? Okay.
Yeah.
The older one first. Hello, my name is Ash, also known as Spicy Pyro. I do casting as well. For those who don't know me, I mainly do color, but I can do a hybrid style. My lovely duo Gompers is also on this podcast with me. The Thing 2 to
Yes.
my Thing 1. But yeah, I'm super pumped to get this rolling.
Hello. I'll start next, I guess. I'm Thing 2. My name is Gompers. The co-caster that Spicy takes care of all the time. You'll probably hear her yelling at me from time to time. I do nothing but yell at my screen and sit on my bed and do nothing. But, I'm here doing something today, so I hope you guys kind of enjoy. Yeah, that's all I really got to say.
All right, that's good. So now we can get into NA.
Yeah, I know.
Oh.
After the awkward, guys, welcome to camp.
Welcome.
But yeah, get things started. I guess I am the one who is in charge of NA, so we're gonna get the ball rolling. We're gonna start off with a quick little recap of what 2021 looked like, and we had the Game Changers series. The first one, I mean, throughout the entire series, C9 White did dominate, taking home the title of the champions for each of the Game Changers, a cool 20 grand out of the 50K prize pool every single time. We did see in Series 1, second place did go to CLG Red, third place to Moon Raccoons Black, and fourth place to Dignitas Female. And then for the second series of Game Changers NA, we did see C9 once again at the top of the leaderboard. CLG Red taking second place for a second time. Shopify Rebellion taking the third place, and Dignitas Female taking the fourth place. So, I mean, basically the exact same. Oh yeah, because Moon Raccoons Black turned into Shopify Rebellion. So those are the same four teams that were at the top for the first two series. And then moving on to Series 3, shaking it up a little bit, we do have Shopify Rebellion, who came in second place. Third place going to Dignitas Female, and then the fourth place going to Exit Female. And I don't know, did you guys want to touch on anything else that was maybe notable that we wanted to talk about for the 2021 series?
No. It's pretty much
Not that I can
pretty good as
remember.
it is, yeah.
C9
Yeah.
White. Yep, basically. I mean, the scene grew significantly, and
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to talk about how it's changed basically, so no need to bring that up, but you covered it fairly well. C9 White doing their thing,
Yeah.
just showing what practice and reps and just competitive experience does.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like C9 White being one of the first, basically the first competitive marginalized gender team for Valorant coming out. They got those reps in, like you mentioned, Delta. They were able to, build something from the ground up, being grassroots and whatnot, and kind of starting things from scratch, building their own roster and taking things all the way, putting that dedication, that hard work in as, being Team Magical before they were
Yeah.
picked up by Cloud9. And I think that it tells it's a really cool origin story, to be honest. I mean, they were, a breaking name coming out. Everybody in the Valorant scene knows them now, whether it's, the Game Changers scene or the general scene. They've made a name for themselves for sure. And I think they gave a lot of inspiration to others to, make their own teams. So they're definitely the ones who paved the way for a lot of these Game Changers teams and players out there. And I can safely say that they're probably the players that most people in Game Changers look up to, or that's who they started out looking up to, when they're getting into the scene. So I'm excited to see what kind of things they're going to bring in this coming year, and especially to see how far they're able to get within the VCT circuit in general, just like outside of the Game Changers scene as well. See how far they're able to get now that they have a year of practice in competitive Valorant under their belts.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah, and then I guess moving on, since we did do a little synopsis of what happened in 2021, let's talk about 2022. We don't have too much information about the format quite yet, all things considered. However, we do have a little bit of info. Recently, Riot did announce the VCT Verizon Game Changer Series events dates. And, Series 1, we're going to see that open qualifier happening on from March 31st to April 3rd. The Game Changer Series 1 main event being April 7th to April 10th. Series 2 is going to kick off with an open qualifier from June 30th to July 3rd, and then the main event will be from July 7th to July 10th, and Series 3 is going to be in October, and that's going to be October 6th to 9th for the open qual, and 13th to 16th for the main event. We don't have any info as far as like what the circuit's going to look like formatting wise, but we can make a few guesses. I mean, in 2021, they ran with a Swiss format into a double elimination style for the top 16 teams. If you don't know what a Swiss format is, I believe Swiss formats are, or at least in 2021, it was a 32 teams in a 5-round Swiss best of 3 elimination, where you are competing against the various teams, and then into the top 16 double elimination. And the prize pool across all of the Game Changer series for NA was 50 grand USD. But like, just like taking a look at that, guys, I mean, we saw that VCT Game Changers for NA was running across 3 days for each event. And moving on and looking at, the 22 dates, we are seeing 4 days instead. So I think we will be seeing at least a slight change in formatting. It's either going to be that, or we're going to see maybe the matches being spread out across more days just to give players time to rest and recuperate after games. But I'm interested to see actually what the formatting is going to be once it's announced. Does anybody have any like guesses on as to like what we could be expecting?
I don't have guesses, but I do know the two main complaints that I heard for the last circuit was the closeness to the main VCT circuit. So I didn't quite track the rest of the year, but at least for this first this first series, it doesn't look like it's going to overlap with the qualifiers for the main VCT event, because that's happening like in a week or so.
Mhm.
So it's going to give the players ample time to try to compete in both. And so that's exactly what is the point. So trying to get teams to be able to compete in both, to gain the competitive experience to get into the main circuit. So I think that space is a relief to see. And then the second issue I heard was players felt like it was just too many games in a short, condensed period of time. And so I think by spacing it out, it might be addressing that complaint. As to if it's going to stay a Swiss format, I know that some people really liked it because it gave teams a like just better opportunities to stay in the qualifiers, but then other teams didn't like it because it was just too many games.
Yeah.
But it's hard to, I guess, please everyone, but hopefully they're in discussion with people in the scene to be able to come to a happy medium on what's the best format.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, it's going to be really interesting. And I think what's going to be interesting as well is we've already seen Series 1 for LATAM happen. And I mean, I'm not going to get too into that because Gompers will be touching on LATAM later on in the episode. But it's interesting to see because the Game Changers series for all the different regions are happening at different times. And then we're going to have global Game Changers at the complete end of the year. And I mean, obviously, you're going to have, you're going to be scrimming, you're going to participate in other tournaments, the teams, that is. And it's interesting to know if, when we have guests on, I'd like to ask them how they feel about the fact that the Game Changer series across the different regions are being held at different times when obviously globals are at the end of the year, and if they feel that that's going to, affect them in any way, whether it's positive or negative. So I think that's going to be like a really interesting talking point and thing to see as we progress throughout this season in 2022. But I mean, we won't know until that really gets rolling. And just to go back and touch on the Game Changers teams that we saw competing in 2021, particularly in open events. We definitely wanted to take a look at how these teams were doing, not only in Game Changers events, Game Changers Academy events, but how they're holding up in open tournaments within competing in a kind of a co-ed kind of style. And moving into that, we did see a few Game Changers teams competing at the NSG Frags, both in Philly and in Fullerton for the lands. The first one being, for NSG Frag Philly, we saw Xet Female. They did go 1 and 2 in groups, unfortunately not making it out, and C9 White did go 0 and 3 in groups, unfortunately not making it out of groups either. NSG Frag Fullerton LAN, we had Shopify Rebellion competing in that, going 2 and 1 in groups, but unfortunately did lose out in the top 64, I believe, in round 64, was it? Or top 16? No, it was top 16. They went 0 and 2 in the top 16 for Frag Fullerton. Sorry, I was looking at a different note when I read 64. Speaking of going out in round 64, though, Knights 5K qualifiers for Valor Rampage Invitational that happened a couple weeks ago. That was Polaris, who was out in round 64. They're also still unsigned. Polaris being like the top Game Changers team out here that is still unsigned. And it's like, it's honestly kind of mind-blowing at this point that nobody's picked them up.
Yeah.
Kind of strange.
I have to agree. I mean, maybe there's something going on underneath that we don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think a team that has been like showing promising numbers since like day one, especially, even after the whole Slays like allegations and
Yeah.
stuff, and they were still performing. Like, and it's not like, hey, we're gonna recruit this player and immediately, things are gonna change and our performance is gonna go down because of that new added player and the fact that they had that synergy with Slays. So now that Shaka was coming in, it's like there's a new player. So it's like we have to figure out like what we're going to do, how we're going to, what the communication is going to be like with this player in general, just like what the relationship is going to be with the team. Because I mean, as we knew previously, everybody likes Slays a lot, like when she was there. But I mean, coming into it now, they've been kind of killing it. I'm going to be honest. And I think over time, especially, it's going to get way better. And now that they've had all this time to practice, it's like they're going to be performing extremely well in Game Changers.
I agree. I don't think they've not gotten any offers yet. I'm pretty sure they're like looking at their options at this point. But I am hoping that they do get signed at least, if not soon, like relatively soon, at least eventually. They deserve it at this point.
Like, what orgs are left?
Off the top of my head, Sentinels.
Sentinels.
Wait,
100.
Sentinels?
Trudum.
Yeah, I'm just thinking.
Female team. Knights doesn't have a female team.
I mean, Knights, pick it up. I don't know.
We Game Changers team, guys. Game Changers team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have
So
a
Hundred.
there's a few orgs left.
Dazed.
Oh
made a
yeah,
good
100
point in
Days doesn't
chat.
have a Game Changers team as well.
Yeah,
Energy.
Energy,
Oh, okay,
KCP.
Dazed
Okay,
took
yeah,
the list.
Dazed. Okay,
Thank you.
Dazed.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Dazed.
All right.
You're slapping us with the facts right now.
Yeah, she pulled
Okay,
up
we
the
got-
list. She's like flipping through the pages.
She had it ready for like just in case this
Literally.
topic came up.
All right. Well, so European teams basically left to sign on a Game Changers
Yeah.
roster.
Yeah,
Anybody who works for these orgs, if you're watching,
exactly. Please, anybody.
Polaris.
keep that in mind. Polaris,
Yeah.
kind of a goated team.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, moving on though, I just wanted to touch on also VCT qualifiers for NA. It's coming up, the first open. I believe next week is when it starts, on the January 27th. And we actually have at least, I couldn't go through every single team to check to see if they're all Game Changers teams. So I picked out the ones that jumped out at me, the names that I'm familiar with. And off the top of my head, I know of 5 of them. We are seeing in VCT Qual Stage 1, C9 White is going to be going into this circuit, trying to, get a place and make a name for themselves. For VCT, Resilience will also be competing. 24 Haven is also going to be competing in VCT Qual Stage 1. So is Shopify Rebellion. And a little secret, not necessarily a secret, but I mean, we have heard of Nerd Emoji. They've played in Game Changers and Game Changers Academy before. Last year they announced that they were disbanding, and they have been making some like very hinty tweets on Twitter under their account. And when I was looking through the list of teams registered for VCT qualifier stage 1, Nerd Emoji Valorant was actually underneath there. So I'm actually really excited to see that roster trying things out, competing in VCT quals and seeing how far they go. Because I think that if you look at the players that are on here, we do have like we have Lasix, we have Autumn, we have I'm like pulling up my list right now. I don't know if the roster is going to be exactly the same, but originally we had like Lasix, Grimoire, Autumn, and Audrey playing on Nerd Emoji. So I'm interested to see if the roster is going to stay the same or if we're going to see some roster changes coming out. But I mean, Autumn is known for her IGLing. She's a great IGL, and then Lasix, they are a cracked aimer, cracked gamer. So I'm excited to see. I'm definitely excited to see what this team is going to be able to do, and if they're actually able to, make a name for themselves, kind of similar to Polaris, a grassroots team coming out and maybe having some upsets and paving a way.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. Interrupt me anytime.
No, I think another thing, especially like, I mean, it's like I don't think a lot of people know of like the history of Nerd Emojis because it was so long ago. I don't know if people, it was like we were still kind of gaining traction for the women's scene. I mean, for Game Changers, and right now in general, it was I think the roster, if I'm thinking of what the roster is going to be built. Just because I know Autumn has like amazing, and I mean amazing IGLing skills. I've had the pleasure of playing with Autumn before, just in like pugs and stuff, and she does know exactly what she's doing. She knows what she's talking about, and it's like and it's not stressful. I feel like the players that will be on Nerd Emoji, if I'm thinking of who it's going to be, just in general are very chill, and
Mhm.
they have good synergy, and they're not afraid to like tell each other like, hey, like we got to
Mhm.
start doing this. And I think that's what you really need, especially to, and this is going to be a new team, but being able to, I think they're going to be able to be very high up already in game changers. And I think in general, just having that and then having the whole year to improve for Game Changers Land and gain those points in the closed circuit, I think that's really going to be one of the main factors of me thinking that Nerd Emoji is going to make it up there very, very high, just because of the history they might have with each other personally, and the fact that Autumn's really good IGL, Lasix, insane cracked gamer, aimer, like you said, and then multiple of the other players that, number one, have insane like the insane capability to use their utility with the team and then kind of play off that and listen to Autumn in a way where a lot of team members kind of have the trouble of listening to their IGL and kind of really getting those strats through. But I mean, I'm just excited to see what they're going to be bringing out here.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, like, I know I mentioned 24 Haven will be competing in the VCT Quals Stage 1, and, you know, there's been some speculation that of who 24 Haven is being signed to. They did mention, they did the contract gif and made the announcement that they have very exciting news. They have signed in their bio now, but haven't come out with the org that they are signed with. We did see that they were in Florida doing some fun stuff, some photo shoots and whatnot, getting ready for the reveal. But the speculation has been for Misfits, even though that hasn't been announced. And I was just curious, like, how do you guys feel about that?
I mean, just right up there with Polaris with a unsigned team that needs to be signed.
Yeah.
Their performance has just been amazing, and they've been one of the teams that have tried to get that outside competitive experience in those open tournaments. So signed up for both VCT Opens. They have signed up for like the Knights events, Boom TV, I believe, as well. So just they have put in the work to try to be a solid roster, and so it's just great to see and them be able to get the fruits of their labor.
I agree. Yeah, they definitely put in the work. I've seen they've just been tried and true in their journey through the VCT, and they haven't. And while they haven't, I don't think they've made like a top four, but they've definitely gotten super close. So I think with a lot more like practice, and especially if they get signed to a reputable company with like good coaches and everything, they can definitely get up there.
Yeah, I remember talking with Polaris, and so for those of you who don't know, when you are signed to an organization, that just frees up a whole lot of like time for you. Like you're able to get some funding so that you
Yeah.
can spend time like actually working on the game. Because when I was talking to players, like they were saying people are working like full-time jobs, full-time
Hmm.
school, like, and then when you're not doing that, that's when you're getting your practice in, that's when you're competing. And so that just it takes a toll on you, but it doesn't allow you to compete as much as you would like or just build in that server time. So getting signed is just a huge opportunity. So I'm glad that they were able to get signed, and then hopefully Polaris is next so that they can continue to grow.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
100%. I mean, like, I think what I really like about sorry, I am gonna go back to 24 Haven really quickly there. My favorite part about 24 Haven are the players, to be honest. I mean, they all have really great online personalities,
Hmm.
and you can
Yeah.
tell, like, in the last Game Changers Academy, they put together kind of like a puggy team with some 24 Haven players, with some other players,
Chloe
with Chloe
Gaming.
Gaming.
Yeah.
And Chloe is now actually part of the 24 Haven roster. So that's going to be a lot of fun. It's cool because we saw them having a lot of fun on Game Changers Academy. We saw them showing an immense amount of synergy. Uh, they they were having fun. They were kind of trolling sometimes too, and they were still owning, considering the fact that they were trolling certain games. And I just like the mental is one of the biggest parts when you're on a team. You have to be able to like maintain a good mental when you're in game. You have to be able to not tilt or get upset with your teammates and whatnot. So
Yeah.
the fact that they're already beyond that barrier where they have the ability to, have fun, maintain a good attitude and whatnot, I think gives them such a great edge up against teams who, might not have that kind of synergy or might not have that kind of attitude. But, enough about that. We are going to move into some roster changes for NA really quickly, and I'm just going to finish that off before we pass on to the next region. We did see Shinobi is going to move over to or has been moved over, sorry, to CLG Red. That being, sorry, I'm just pulling up my notes real quick. Yes. So yes. Okay. Thank you. Betty is the queen behind our graphics. The perfect
Amazing.
scene changes. Thank you. Yeah. So Shinobi is the new coach coming on for CLG Red. So I'm interested to see like CLG Red having placed second last year twice in Game Changers Series 1 and 2. I'm excited to see if this coach change here is going to be able to give them that edge up to actually take first place in one of the series in this coming year. But after this, we're going to just chat very, very briefly about XSET. We did see that Anarchist, I'm tripping over my words. Anarchist was benched officially and now is a restricted free agent looking for other opportunities. She's been tweeting a lot about, missing doing scrims, missing getting in on the action and whatnot. So I'm interested to see if another team is going to pick her up and what she brings to the table. I mean, we know that she's a really great fragger. She's quite the monster, to be honest, on XSET, like absolutely cracked gamer. But obviously, unfortunately, did not find her home in that team. And it's tough. Like, it's tough to not be scrimming right now. I feel like being a restricted free agent is one of the hardest positions to be in. I mean, I'm not a player myself, but that's what I would imagine, to be honest. I mean, you're benched, you're not like you can look for new opportunities, but then at the same time, like while you're looking, your team that you're with isn't like you're not scrimming with them for the most part, unless like they need a sub in for that day in particular. So it's tough because that's a bit of a mental battle as well. But she seems to be really taking it in stride, not letting it get her down, and just, really looking for those new opportunities to come out. And then next up, Solaire actually parted with Communist recently, which was their jet main on their roster, and have actually added Fawn as their fifth. So I'm excited to see how Fawn is going to do on this team, how the synergy is going to go. I know Cammy is currently trialing for a few other teams, so I'm hoping that she's able to find her home soon somewhere else. And excited. She'll bring, great energy to any team that she's on, being that jet main. But I don't know. I'm interested to see how being a jet main is actually going to play out in 2022 in general, with like the new agents, with Neon being added in, with some metas being changed and whatnot. I think Valorant's probably looking to move away from that jet meta. So it's going to be interesting to see which agents these jet mains pick up. And most of the time it's been Chamber. Yeah. But, and then last but not least, Complexity GX3 replaced Bunnyha on their roster with Jennifer. I don't know too much about Jennifer as a player, to be honest, but I think it's going to be interesting to see how the chemistry works out and whatnot, because I thought, Bunnyha on Complexity was a really great player, had a really great synergy, often with Lace. fragging out and whatnot, being a really great support, often playing that KO role as well. And yeah, I don't know. I don't have too much to say. We're trying to keep it kind of short with all of these recaps here, but that's all. That's what I got for NA so far. There isn't too much to get into considering the fact that our Game Changer series does not start until much later in the year.
Yeah, there's not too much to say about the new fifth because I believe there's like no Valorant experience, at least like online. I've seen it's or she's mostly a CS:GO transplant, like directly from I think CLG Red.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. They will know how to speak that language certainly, and I'm sure make the team have that synergy. And they have all this time, like you mentioned. Granted, there are teams, like you said, competing in the main VCT that have had that competitive experience. So, like Genji and Shopify. So, I think their rosters are pretty stable, and there is still enough time to build like XSET's roster back since they have dropped or benched Ari as well as Marina, I believe. So they have quite a bit of building to do, but there's time.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like the hardest thing with roster changes too is like, I mean, it's so emphasized that when you're building a team, you want to give them a chance to grow. A lot of teams are sometimes quick, whether it's teams or orgs. Sometimes they can be a little bit quick, I think, to swap players out or to start trialing other people instead of giving that opportunity to build synergy. And
Yeah.
I don't know. Average Jonas tweeted about it the other day, and I like wholeheartedly agreed with that, considering the fact that a team is never going to get anywhere if you don't give them a chance to learn together. Obviously, if there's like core issues, whether it's personality issues or beef within the group, or maybe if the agent pools don't really mesh very well, like it makes sense. But there are so many teams who also, they go into one tournament, they don't win, or they don't place as high as they think they could have, and then they can be quick to just replace somebody based off of that and trial someone else instead of giving them a chance. And that's a pretty big mistake, in my opinion. But I digress because this episode is not about that.
Yeah.
And
I can go on all day about that topic, but it's not for today, unfortunately. So, yeah.
Yeah, that is all I got for NA. And I think up next, we are moving over to EMEA, if you want to take it away, Delta.
Yeah, sure. So basically the same format, just going to give a recap and what has happened. So recap, the EMEA Game Changer scene had a little bit, delay is not the right word, but they started towards the end of the year compared to the NA circuit. And so they kind of just crammed three series into the end of 2021. But initially, there was this plan to make the second series a mixed kind of co-ed sort of environment. And that didn't take too well to Twitter and the scene, and rightfully so. The scene is still new because it was literally they just had series one, so not enough time for these rosters to build before they start mixing things up. So even though the intent down the line is to have teams with just everyone included, the argument is that series 2 is a little early for that. So fortunately, Riot over there were very accommodating, and they just kept it to the women and marginalized genders scene for the rest of the tournaments. And then that's, I don't think they've announced otherwise, but that's how the rest of this year will be as well. So for last year, the champions basically were 10-star Nova. So they won Series 1 and Series 2. They came from a lower bracket run, so the excitement of that, not knowing who's going to win exactly. But 10-star Nova were able to take the first two series. And G2 were able to take the last series. So 10 Star Nova was hoping to do a 3-peat, kind of like Cloud9 White did, but they were knocked out in the lower brackets. And so G2 was able to thrust forward and take that prize. So G2 right now are kind of the favorites for everyone. I don't know if it's recency bias or whatnot, but I mean, they are a strong roster. I was watching a little bit today of what they were able to do, and yeah, they're pretty cracked gamers. So G2 as well as Guild X, for example, those were the two finalists for Series 3. They're some of the favorites for this coming year. So that being said, this coming year for the EMEA region, they have announced that they're going to do an academy circuit similar to what's going on in NA. The details haven't been formalized just yet in terms of how that's going to pan out, but that's going to be another exciting initiative and avenue for teams to just get more competitive experience, rosters to try each other out before moving on to the game changer circuit. And yeah, it's supposed to be similar to last year with the 3 series. However, not in kind of the cram format we saw last year. So enough time for the players to be able to formulate strats and be able to make any adjustments needed before competing in the next one. That's a gist of how 2022 is going to be laid out. Also to discuss is the integration of these game changers teams into the main circuit. So similar to what we've been talking about with C9 White, so 3 teams that I at least recognized were able to compete in the last EMEA VC, or specifically EU, the main qualifiers. So G2, Rix, Rix.gg, and Guild. And those 3 teams, they competed in both of the qualifiers. Unfortunately, they didn't go too far. So the furthest any of those teams went in either one was the second round. So you can see here, G2 goes in for the most recent qualifier. They were able to get one map, but unfortunately lost in that second round game. So this is probably a discussion we'll have in a future episode, but kind of just what is the how do we get these game changers teams to kind of go the distance, and what kind of just basically what can the scene do to help support them in their main VCT run. So I'm sure we'll talk about that in plenty depth, because again, that's the purpose of the whole initiative. All right. So again, a few roster changes. One of the big ones that kind of shook things up was Anja. So Anja was added to G2 towards the initiation of that roster, but was released from the roster, I believe, end of last year. But then a tweet came up saying like it's official. So Anja was able to leave and look for new opportunities. And so Anja will be competing, or is competing, in this Game Changer series with a new team, but I'll bring that up at another point. Let's see. Other big roster changes. So taking Anja's place in G2 is Glance. So Glance is a transplant from the Guild X team. Glance was basically like the controller for that team, and so now switching to G2. And that, like I said, I caught a little bit of the G2 game and they looked good. So Glance seems to have adjusted well. I don't know how much the new coach that they has had anything to do with it, but they also have a new coach. So wait, not G2 has a new coach. Guild has a new coach. Both teams have been making roster changes, my bad. So yeah,
It gets
G2,
confusing.
all the G's basically. So
Yeah.
right. So Glance went from Guild to G2, not confusing at all. And Guild got a new coach. Got it. Okay. So basically both teams just trying to fix things up before starting the most recent Game Changers circuit. And another team that kind of had a roster mania deal is the Footballists team. So they initially were Lux Nova, but it seems like they pretty much transferred a lot of their players so that they could build like half the roster again. So like 3 members were basically released from that team, and now it's, I believe, a full Turkish team now. So I think that's kind of the direction they wanted to go as well, to support or represent Turkey. And what else? We also have a couple of new rosters that form. So Equinox is a new roster. So Pilot CB, she's well known in the scene. So she was able to work with Wonder, who's also a well known coach in the scene, to form this new roster for Game Changers. So I'm always just curious to see when people kind of stick together to see what they're able to continue to build. So I'm looking out for that team. Mediaca formed together with Anja. So those 2 players, like I mentioned, they were released from their original roster, and so they're like, okay, well, we don't have a team to compete with, so let's compete together. So they'll be competing together with some other players to form Untapped. So that's the name of their like free agent team. So another team to kind of look out for. And let's see, Chat Band is a well-known team. Yeah, because they were able to do quite well, even though they were an unsigned team. So they were able to take maps off of most of the teams that I've mentioned before, and even without the support of an organization backing them. But now they do have an organization backing them. So Alliance finally signed them, and so they're competing as Alliance for Series 1. And the last team I kind of wanted to bring up is a team called Attack Esports. So I know nothing about any of the teams from Africa, or South Africa for that matter. So apparently that's a South African organization, and they said that they were sponsoring a team for the Game Changer scene, which I thought was cool because, again, I had not heard any. I don't know if you all have heard anything from like any teams in Africa competing in Game Changers or the main circuit for that matter. So I don't know how that works exactly. Clearly that is their region to compete, but I don't know how it works, especially, for example, in the main circuit they split it with like CIS, Turkey, EU, but then there's no Africa. So I personally don't know how Africa slots into the circuits.
I think it'll be an interesting point of discussion when we get a bit more information about every single circuit. I mean, it just being the beginning of 2022, we don't have like too much info. Like even for NA, like we barely have any information for what's going on here. Granted, we are starting way later than a lot of the series, but when it comes down to it, there's been, I mean, even in like the open series, I know like SEA, for example, last year had a lot of complaints about not getting the same kind of coverage, the same kind of attention, or the same kind of promotion as some of the other regions. So I think it'll be an important and interesting topic of discussion to bring up. And obviously, we'll touch on it more in a later episode, like comparing and contrasting all of these regions. But it'll definitely be interesting to see if Riot does have anything planned, or if they're going to have any explanation for that, or if it's going to be something that, ourselves as a Game Changers community, we're going to have to, really push to get some other regions included within this series, considering the fact that it is more of it's a smaller circuit within every single region, right? And sometimes you kind of just have to prove that the attention is there, the interest is there, and as a community, you just sometimes have to really push on behalf of the players to show that you are supportive and to make sure that they do have a space.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I
definitely.
definitely, yeah.
Yes, it's just something to look out for to see how Africa is integrated into the main circuits. Yeah. So as I alluded to a couple times, the Series 1 has started for EMEA. So the Swiss format for the group stages basically started today. And I'm so hyped that they are actually covering the group stages. So EMEA has started doing this thing where they're doing, actually, EMEA and LATAM have been doing watch parties for some of the earlier parts of a tournament. And so it's a more informal kind of thing, but we get to see the games, which is amazing. So they showed G2's games today and Oxygen esports games as well. And then, there were individual streams from the players. But yeah, so that has gone on. A couple of teams have already qualified because, you need 3 basically to move on. And so we have, I believe, 10. Can't read the small print, unfortunately. I'm old. I need my glasses to, let's see. I believe that's 10. 2, 4, 6.
It is 10, yeah.
There
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
go. 10 teams have already made it into the next stage. The teams that we have come to expect. So you see G2 up there, Oxygen, 10 Star, Rix, Synergy is like an all French team. I just think that's cool. I want to go visit France. Untapped, like I mentioned, so that's that team, that's that free agent roster with Mediaca and Anja. So they sailed through. And so these are the teams that made it like 3-0 basically for their Swiss group stages. And so tomorrow the teams basically that haven't reached that magic number 3 yet will have to continue to compete to be eligible for the next stage. Yeah. Any thoughts on like the top team so far, or I don't know if any of you were able to catch the games, but like any thoughts or expectations for what you are going to see for Series 1?
Honestly, I do not know enough about EMEA to put my 2 cents in. So like to give everybody else like a rundown, I guess, everybody who's watching, we each assigned ourselves a region to kind of focus on, to be like a little miniature summary expert on. So Delta is obviously focused on EMEA, I was focused on NA, Gompers being focused on LATAM, and Kipsy being focused on SEA. So it's because obviously it would be really hard for each of us to kind of catch up on every single one of the regions collectively and try and give summaries together. So we thought it'd just be easier for the first episode to kind of break it down this way. But sorry, I hijacked just to get that little explanation, but
Good.
but yeah, when it comes down to it, I mean, I'm
Um,
excited to see how things go. And to watch, this year, because I didn't catch the EMEA scene last year for Game Changers, and especially considering the fact that we are going to have a global event coming up at the end of the year, I think it's going to be like it adds a lot more focus to each individual region. Like it kind of is like a driving reason to go and catch up on every single region instead of just being focused on your own, because you're going to be rooting for your favorite team
Yeah.
at globals, which is going to be like the first big LAN for like a Game Changers this Game Changer series. But I mean, like, generally the women's and marginalized genders seen across any title.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, did you ask like what we thought the results were going to be, or just our thoughts on EMEA for the series 1 that's coming up? Is that what you asked?
Basically what you said, just to
Okay,
wrap
yeah.
things up.
I mean, with the way G2 is going right now, I know that Anja left and Galance is in. I think Galance is a promising player from, the team that they were on Guild previously. I think in general, I mean, G2 was able to overtake 10 Star, last year, and they've been playing well coming up to this point. The question is, like, who's improved the most? Because now that we're coming in, they've had so much time to prepare for Series 1 coming in here. So they could have changed their strategies. They could have changed basically as much as they probably wanted to. They could have completely changed up the way they play, especially with having, I believe Glance is actually playing Sova for them, or Sage, or Sentinels, continuing to play Sentinels. I'm sorry. But I think in general, being able to have a different Sentinel, that can kind of change up how your team plays, especially, you want a Sentinel that's going to be able to do their job, hold the site, either that or play the way the team wants you to. So I'm literally excited to see whether or not, 10 Star can kind of come back and reign, their glory, or if G2 is going to continuously be, maybe they're going to take hold. I mean, they formed that roster, and then out of nowhere, it was just like, it was just 10 Star just got completely dumped. I don't know like the correct terminology to say, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, Tensar made a roster change as well, so I don't know what that looks like, but
Mhm.
yeah, G2 looked good today. I only was able to watch a few minutes, but look at this. Like, this was so clean. Can you like full screen it so people can appreciate
Exactly what
how
she wants.
clean
Maybe
this
they give
was?
it a full. That's
I saw
exactly
this and
what
I was
happened.
just like,
It's nasty.
what
Wait,
is
we gotta
happening?
restart the video. We gotta restart the
Oh
video.
yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
let's-
Betty.
yeah, right. All right, let's bring our casting skills out. That's
Oh,
one.
come on.
That's 2. Can she make it 3?
It's just
She will.
Giuliano. It's just her. She's amazing.
Her
Exactly.
team is in the
So
back, like chilling though. Like that's so funny.
I was just
They're
like, you
not-
do you. You
They're
got
really
this.
not even moving.
Just
They're
go
not
ahead.
pushing forward
They're
on
like,
any at
listen,
all.
hey, it's a team, it's a team, it's a team thing. They
I'm
just
not
go
even
one by
kidding.
one. They give each other the ace occasionally, and they're like, yo, you can
I'm
go
not
in this
even
time.
joking. KJ has not moved at all. She literally looks AFK. Oh, now she moved.
No, that's what they do. That's
Support.
what they do. It's a secret, okay? The secret
Okay.
is that they don't get the ace all the time to make it look like,
Uh-huh.
it's not what they're doing. But occasionally
Okay.
they're like, hey, I need a clip. And they're like, oh, go ahead.
Oh, that's
Just go
the clip.
through, get the ace, feel free. And then that's the clip. They just post it on the Twitter, they get those impressions, and then they go on with their life.
Hey, what's the score? 8-3? Okay, cool. I'm gonna get a clip,
Wake
guys.
up. Thing to
Basically.
do after beating G2 Guzin.
Mm-hmm.
Gozin? I said that
Mhm.
wrong. Gozin. Wake up 100%. Very good. I like that. That's a good meme.
It is. Meme point on G2's meme games just on a different level. I can't
Yeah,
can't
I
even
don't
try.
know. Like,
But yeah, so basically Juliana was doing that. And
She's just doing her thing,
farming. They were basically farming the newer rosters, which
Yeah.
I mean, it's to be
Like-
expected.
yeah.
It's a learning experience
It's
for
like
them,
when you
right?
play
Like you're
against
not gonna.
C9 and you're a brand new roster. It's the same thing.
Yeah, it's a learning experience. You only get better
Mhm.
from it as long as you don't let it get you down. You'll grow. Sometimes you
Yeah.
got to get shit on.
Yeah, true. That is
That's-
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when
aptly
you
described.
win all the time, like you really don't learn anything. So if you lose
No,
here
exactly.
and there, like yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Well, yeah, that's it for EMEA. Like, just wanted to end it with that because that kind of shows what G2 is able to do, and
Mhm.
they're not messing around.
Mhm.
And I can't wait to catch the main event. I think in a week or so.
Mhm.
I know there's a break because they want the teams to be able to compete in VRL. So yeah, let's go across. Well, it's not really an ocean, more like land. To APAC.
Yep, that's me. All right. So APAC, also known as the C region for VCT. So I'm going to bring you guys back to 2021. It was a really interesting series. I had a great time watching it. But to recap, it was the Game Changers SEA FSL Elite. That was basically the grand finals big event that they had there. And the team to look out for there was Alter Ego Celeste. They are the region's Cloud9 White. They have not lost any games. They've lost a couple of maps to some teams, but they are pretty much unstoppable.
Damn.
Yeah, so if I look back here on if I have the Liquipedia page pulled up, they only lost one map, and that was in grand finals. And the team that they lost the one map to was Mad Army. And same thing for Mad Army, they also didn't lose any maps until they got to Alter Ego Celeste. So those are the two teams that I am really excited to see for this
Yeah.
upcoming VCT. Honorable mentions is VLT Asteria, Renatus White, Big Shith, Nigma, Galaxy Female, TC Rise, and did I miss anyone? Oh, Aerocrat Aresta. So those were the top 8 teams, but Alter Ego Celeste ended up taking the whole series 3-1. So yeah, they're a force to be reckoned with. They're actually super, super good players. Their aim is actually on point and they just dominate. So that was a little bit of 2021. Not coming in 2022, there will be 4 stages with a total prize pool of $60,000 USD. So open 1 to 4, there'll be a maximum of 64 teams to compete in the double elimination rounds all across to win points. The top 3 teams on the leaderboard will qualify for the APAC Elite stage. And then there's also the overtime stage where 8 teams that were ranked from 4th to 11th place in the previous open stages will have another chance to qualify. These matches will be played in a double elimination, and the top 3 teams will qualify for the elite stage as well. There will also be a last chance qualifier, and then finally the VCT Game Changers APAC Elite, which will have the grand final prize of $35,000 USD. So all this will be starting. Open will start in the first open will start in February, and then it'll move on to April. The beginning of April, end of April in May, and then the overtime section will start in June. The last chance qualifier will be in August, and finally the elite games will be in October. I can't wait to see it. And then we move on to and then if we move on to recently with the discussion of APAC, there's been a lot in terms of the rules. So there was discussion on rule changes for the rules originally about roster changes and the point system. So basically the rules beforehand was something along the lines of if teams change their players at any point throughout the series, they lose all their points in general. But the people at the esports at APAC changed it so that if they do want to do roster changes, they have to keep at least 3 core players in order to not lose their points. And if they happen to change their captain, they have to do a proper transfer of ownership and inform the head of tournament, the head tournament official. So that was so before that rule change, there's a lot of discussion on how it wasn't fair. If some teams want to do roster changes and they lose all their points, there's a lot of frequently asked questions about the point system and everything. But yeah, so that was changed recently. So I don't think I don't think there's anything bad about that. Now I think it's all good for the time being. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for APEC. Nothing too huge as the series is not going to start until February, but I'm excited to see that. What do you guys think about Alter Ego Celeste though? The Cloud9 White of APEC and everything. Like I really want to see them make it to the international land and fight actually against C9 White. I definitely want to see those two compete because they're really great players on those teams.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know too much about, the team other than what you just gave us the rundown on.
Yeah.
But like you said, I think it's going to be interesting. And obviously, a topic that we'll touch on in the future is like the metas are different from region to region as
Yeah.
it is. Like, regardless of game changers, in like the open series, the metas are incredibly different from each other. And then you also have the fact that I've noticed even in like GCA and game changers itself, the meta within the Game Changers scene is sometimes slightly different from the open circuit. So I think that's really interesting, considering the fact that these teams have, even within their own region, different play styles, and different metas that they tend to use like within the region itself compared to other teams who are not within the Game Changers series, but they're also like competing against in like open tournaments and whatnot. And then to like see that it's going to be like seeing two metas from every region come together at global, because you're seeing the open competitive, like your normal meta, and then you're seeing the Game Changers metas that are often slightly different with their team comps and stuff like that. Like I know for GCA and for Game Changers, GCA specifically, a lot of these teams had comps built around agents like KO, which you didn't. I mean, KO was used in open as well, but not to the same degree as he was used in Game Changers tournaments and whatnot. So I think it's going to be really interesting seeing like all of these different metas colliding in one place, and how that's all gonna like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just excited. I don't know where I was going with that. I word salad at the end.
It's all good. We're not on a script. It's just chilling. But yeah, I'm really excited too, because even though I'm not immersed in every single region, I know like we're all focused in our own regions. I have seen at least one match from each one. So seeing these teams and their metas and like the players that they have, and everything, and also just the fact that considering that the threshold for, because most of the rank requirements for these games are Diamond 1 and above, right?
Yeah.
But you do notice that sometimes the version of Diamond 1 in one region may not be the same as another region, right?
Yep.
But so seeing not only the metas but that collide and see how that works with each other, I think is gonna be really interesting.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I like the change also that it used to be basically just Southeast Asia, but now it's called the APAC region. So just being able to incorporate more teams this year. And last time, so I was looking hard because I remember there was like a ridiculous number of teams. So if you have a chance, Betty, to pull up a tweet I just found. So they had 132 teams compete in SEA last year, and 757 players. Like, what? And mind you, this is women and marginalized gender, so like that's just bonkers to me. It's amazing. So now that they're opening it up to more like countries, supposedly, like imagine how many players they're going to reach. Like, this is amazing that they're able to do that. And I wonder if that's why like the rank change could be different. Well, actually, I didn't check. So I believe for this region it's Plat 1, or is it Diamond 1?
APAC?
It's Diamond 1 or Plat 1?
It's Diamond 1. It's Diamond 1.
Diamond 1, okay.
Yeah.
So it's Diamond 1 for APAC and then Plat 1 for EMEA.
Oh, okay.
Like, I wonder if they had to do that to like not
Because
have
of
a
the number of
million
people.
people.
Yeah.
So
I think it's interesting too, because it's like having that difference in the minimum rank requirement also changes the scene itself too, right? Like you have a different, there's a difference in like the challenge that's going to be there and whatnot. But you're probably right, Delta, with it being the reason being to limit the number of teams signing up or whatever, because that is a lot of players. And but I don't know, I have mixed feelings about that, because you do want it, I think, like with a global event coming up, it would be nice to see like more consistency across all of the regions. But at the same time, obviously, the populations of every single region are very different as well. And as are like the norms within the open series for every single region too, right? So I definitely think it's interesting, but it's really cool seeing those kinds of numbers, considering the fact that the more players you have within the esports community, the faster these players are going to grow, because they're going to have, you know, the ability to play against each other, to scrim against each other, have this foundation where, you know, they're working together as both peers and competitors to improve themselves, as opposed to having like a smaller player pool where sometimes it can get like redundant. And as much as you can learn from each other, the variety is incredibly important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You gotta love variety. And I just want to see. You know what? I was gonna say I just want to see everybody play. I just want to see everybody play. I don't like. Not that I don't care about the numbers. I don't think that way. But I just want to see everyone have a chance to just play their game and do what they have to do, and then
Yeah.
get and see who gets there. And I'm not really picking favorites, other than Ultra Eagles Less. But I really want to see as many people as possible get to the top.
I think the addition of the Game Changers Academy will help with that as well. I have no idea what
Mhm.
that's going to even look like in that region being so large, but I think, again, just like you said, more opportunities to have more players compete.
Mhm.
I believe it's Gomper's turn.
Yeah, I was about to say
Oh
it's my
yeah,
turn. Okay. Hi guys.
bring us home.
I'll start with LATAM. Is that how you say it? I feel like I'm saying these wrong,
I
guys.
think it's
I'm very
LATAM.
illiterate. I'm very
Yeah.
illiterate. If you don't
Yeah.
know.
It's okay. It's
Okay, so LATAM. So if we are going to be looking at a recap, they have two in LATAM. So they have Latin America North and they have Latin America South. So basically, what happened in North, they had the Radiant Energy Series, the Valorant Girls Cup, and Series 1 and Series 2 of Game Changers. But Valorant Girls Cup being the women's only Mexican tournament, which was what it said in the, I believe it was the VLR or the Liquipedia. But so Radiant Energy Series Open has been canceled and is being replaced by Game Changers, as it says. And then, I mean, but if we're going to recap on kind of the teams that were dominating within the series before, majorly, from Series 1 and Series 2, the two first place players were from Skullcracker Femme, that had first place in Series 1, and then Series 2, Worst Generation, which had kind of blown out Skullcracker Femme and took that first place. But, I don't know if Skullcracker Femme and Worst Generation kind of collided as they were going on through the tournament, but Skullcracker Femme went from first to, I believe it was like, I don't know, fifth or something like that. And it was like, for me, it was kind of like, you don't really see that happen often. Once you kind of have that first place and you're kind of, you at least stay within the kind of region of first place to third or fourth. But going down that far was kind of surprising to me. But in general, we're going to have to go over to Latin America South, which is kind of like the second area, which is LATAM. But we do have the Radiant Energy Series Open. Once again, Series 1, Series 2. They do not have that Girls Cup just because Latin America North does have Mexico instead of not really having all the other regions that Latin America South does. But they do have the Series 1 and the Radiant Energy Series and Series 2. We had FA team completely dominate. And surprise, surprise, if you don't know, FA team is now newly crew female, which is an investment. I mean, they've been doing extremely well. I mean, I wouldn't be. I was honestly I was looking through here and I didn't know prior that FA team was crew female. I was like, dang, like this team isn't signed. Like, what is going on? And then then it kind of popped up. Oh, okay, they're signed. Yeah, it's just under
They
a
got
new
picked
name
up.
now. Yeah, they got picked up. It's under a new name, but 100%. I mean, just seeing how they've been doing is extremely cool. I think in general, like seeing that Crew Esports picked up this team and they're still dominating. It's like, I mean, obviously, but if now going into the format for kind of like next year, next year is 2023. We're not there yet. Let's take a step back. But coming up, we do have the format of Game Changers. I think I had it down here. Maybe I'm just kind of dumb, but we have it up. Okay. So basically you have I believe it's 4 or 3 open qualifiers. It's 4. You have 4 open qualifiers, then you have your 4 closed qualifiers, and this is for LATAM. You have your 4 open, your 4 closed, and then you get those circuit points to bring yourself up to one of the closed tournaments where Latin America South and North, I believe, come together. I don't know if that was what was implied by the picture. It looked like it. I think they basically battle it out to go to the global event.
Yeah, can you scroll to the picture, Betty?
Which I think, it's the final region. So basically, you have the 3 open. It's 3 open, then you have the 3 closed. You get those circuit points to go up to the Game Changers tournament number 4, which is your 4th closed tournament, and then you go to the final region where you have to battle it out, and then you get to go to the Game Changers Global, which is extremely fascinating. I mean, I think I don't know if they are combining the 2, but if they are, I don't think we've seen both of the regions hash it out just yet. I'm not 99% sure, which I think is going to be interesting to see whether or not, what is Skullcracker Femme or whatever is going to take that against Crew, and if Crew is going to be able to find their match. But if you don't know, I mean, we do have the kind of the first open. I believe the first open already happened, which Crew, of course, took first place in the South region. In the North region, it was, in fact, I believe it was Skullcracker Femme. Firepower took second, and if you don't know, like I said before, in the last year, Firepower was worst generation. Majority of the players were on worst generation from Firepower, so they kind of went into there, and I believe they made their own team. I don't know. It's a very new roster from Firepower, with 3 of the players being from worst generation. I'm not sure if they left worst generation or if it's still going and they just kind of joined this, but I would believe. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting. But another thing is, I told you guys this before, and I was like, what the heck? Like, when Crew picked up FA Team, I don't know if this was simply because of the fact that I don't know, maybe I'm thinking Crew picked up FA Team, but they didn't pick up a specific player from that. I don't know if they had left to go to I believe, it was Undead Female. I don't know if they left to go to Undead Female, or if it was just like kind of one of those things where they didn't get picked up. But I mean, they did hash it out. I don't necessarily recall. I think it was Kurapika. That was what her name was. She wasn't picked up by Crew. I don't know if she left to Undead Gaming or if she just wasn't picked up in general. But they actually did hash it out. Undead Gaming actually went up against Crew and unfortunately lost. Crew did win, which is one way to, to just go at it with your friends or something. But, the history of that is unknown.
Yeah, definitely Crew is a roster to continue to watch out for in the South. They beat Undead like pretty bad in the finals. Like it was very clean. Like there was no question that they weren't going to win that game. And I really like seeing them play. I'm hoping to catch more games of them. And I can't imagine, like, as we alluded to earlier, just the power of having a an organization behind you is just that much more important in trying to grow. Especially something like Vamos Crew. Like, we saw how Crew did with Champions.
Yeah.
And
oh my gosh. So great.
how much probably money the org made, as well as the new fan base they have. So all of that behind them, I mean, they're pretty much my favorites, at least, to go to the global LAN, because like you were describing earlier, Gompers, the whole North and the South have to compete, which I think is a little unfair that they only get to send that one representative. It would be nice if both regions could have a representative. I don't know, but right now they're my favorites to go onto the global LAN.
Yeah, I'm like what do you say in this moment in time? But yeah, I'm really excited to see Crew go up against Skull. I believe it was Skullcracker Fem, just because it's two teams that basically dominate within their region. Skullcracker Fem did kind of have an up and down with Worst Generation, which was Firepower, and I'm assuming those two are kind of equally, close together within skill range. But in general, Crew, it's just hard to imagine. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's hard to imagine some other team from another area going up against another team from another region and then being like, oh, well, like, let's hash it out. Let's see who's better. Just because you haven't seen, them kind of compete. And now coming into this, we're finally having an event where we get to see all these females from different regions come together and compete. It's like, you just don't know. Like, what if Cloud9, which is one of the regions that not region, Cloud9 is a region. Yes, very much so. It is 100%. Let's say Cloud9, which is dominating in NA. They've been probably the top team so far, just gets completely annihilated by Crew. It's like, after that, our minds are just like, they're gone. We're blown. My mind is blown. I don't know. I'm bad with words.
Well,
but
yeah, exactly. That's
like, yeah.
Well, no, I mean, that's why the global LAN will just be so much more information for us. I mean, look what happened with Champions. We didn't know that the SEA region and Brazil and LATAM were going to like pop off like that. Like, Crew gained that many more fans. They also, so X10 also just dominated, and look what happened with Sentinels and Envy. Like, we just had a whole bunch of tiers in NA to the point where like Sideshow called the whole region tier 2. So it's like it's just another example of what we just need more data, and the LAN will do just that.
Yeah, I agree. But quick side track off the Crew, they improved so much.
Yeah.
The male team, because when I first saw them in Iceland, I was like, damn, they're kind of bad. But like now, and I hate to say it, but they genuinely didn't do great. They didn't win any maps or anything, and I just like, they're underperforming. But then Berlin happened, and then Champions happened, and they gradually got to where they were, and it was so great to see, with no roster changes, by the way. So see how that went. That was great. I really
crazy what happens when you give a team time to grow.
Exactly.
Crazy.
100%. I know. It's like, oh, what is this? I don't know.
Building chemistry? What is that?
New chemistry, friendship? I only know
The
Valorant.
power of friendship?
I only know Valorant. Anyways, we do have Brazil. I believe. Yeah, we have Brazil. So Brazil. What's Brazil? It's a place, you might ask. I mean, you might. Never mind. We're gonna continue. We're just gonna keep powering through it.
It is a destination.
The brain doesn't work at this time of night. So
only 10:30 gompers.
Gamer hours, man.
Yes. So Brazil, we have the previous stuff that was going on. Girl Power number 3, Protocol Genesis, Sakura's Ascent, Rivals Women Cup, Valor Summer Cup, Esports Makers, Spike Ladies Girls on Fire, SPT All Stars, Protocol, yes, Copa Ranking, and it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Which I think is amazing, because that's just giving a lot. They don't really have the brand name of the Game Changers. I haven't seen. I don't know if they're having game change. I mean, they've worked with Riot to get some of these events in, but it's not Game Changers. Like, they have the different names for it. I don't know if they're gonna have. They're 100% gonna have something leading up to the global events. I'm not sure if it's gonna be rebranded to a different name or something, but I mean, in general, these are the Game Changers. Yeah. But right now, the top team, which I've seen a lot, if they didn't play in a tournament, they weren't first. Gamelanders Purple, which was signed by, I believe it was I was going to say Liquipedia. Please.
You're technically right. You are technically right.
Somebody needs to take over at some point, because I'm going to lose my mind. I forgot. How did I forget? I think it was guys, let me guess, please.
You're doing great, sweetie.
I'm doing amazing. It wasn't Wikipedia, right? It was
I mean, you're close.
I'm close. God. I know it. Team Liquid.
There you
Okay.
go.
Team Liquid. They were picked up by Team Liquid, not Team Liquipedia, but they were picked up by Team Liquid, Gamelanders Purple, which makes 100% sense. They were doing amazing. And I think it's interesting as well, having all these tournaments, having all these ladies compete, regardless, still taking first. So I definitely think this is a team making it to Game Changers Global. I definitely think this is a team that's going to be showing something promising. I definitely think this team is probably going to maybe come first. I mean, second or third or something. I mean, but it all depends, like we talked about. The metas are different. Everything's different in different regions. So it also all depends on how all the other teams are going to be able to take this. But yeah, the announcement was amazing.
I agree.
It was like
gorgeous.
it's movie. It's movie. Um, but what else? I mean, coming into this year, God, I say that a lot. So coming into this year, the format is basically like Latin America, the format for LATAM, but it is basically just I believe, I don't know if you have the graphic for it, but it's basically the same thing. You have the open qualifiers, you have the closed qualifiers, then you have the other closed qualifier, which gives you those circuit points all the way up to the global, which in itself is, yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory, as we did talk about LATAM before. But I mean, it's interesting as well. I don't know, I thought they were gonna in the description it said that they were gonna split it up into 2, or maybe I'm just dumb. I don't know exactly. It's in Spanish. And I only know so little. So it was interesting being able to Google this. But I believe it's basically the same as LATAM.
Yeah, any Portuguese speakers in the chat want to help us out?
Yeah, I'm a Spanish speaker.
know.
I don't speak Portuguese. I was very confused. Google Translate helped me a lot, basically. So, but yeah, I mean, coming up in the future, as for rosters, I believe, yeah, Game Landers Purple signed to Team Liquid. There was another team that was somewhat, on the tail of Game Landers, which was Havon Liberty, female, and B4 Angels and Stars Horizon female. Those are like kind of the main teams that have kind of caught the attention, I feel like, especially. And Keed Stars Athenas as well has been one pretty prominent occasionally, but these teams in general, there's a lot. I mean, occasionally Gamelanders, I believe it was one tournament that Gamelanders actually got third. No, it was 2. It was the Esports Maker Spike Ladies and the Girls on Fire tournament. And B4 Angels taking first in both of them, Havon Liberty female taking second, and Stars Horizon female taking fourth. But yeah, I mean, maybe they had an off tournament that day, or maybe it was just something that Clayton B4 Angels. But in general, just I'm interested to see, I want to see Brazil. I want to see Gamelanders and crew hash it out. I'm going to be honest with you. Team Liquid.
Yeah.
Team Liquipedia.
That's going to be a meme from now on.
Yeah, it's going to be our secret little meme.
The Brazil region is just another one that is trying to grow as well. So they have their Game Changers Academy circuit has already started. So they started that this year. They're already planning their second tournament for that. So that's interesting that that's like already taking place. What I thought was super interesting is the Team Liquid roster competed in the main circuit for Brazil like this past week, and they made it to round 4, which that's the farthest that I'm aware that a Game Changers team has performed in a main circuit. Like typically we see round 2 that the teams are unfortunately getting out in. I don't even think Cloud9 has made it past the 3rd round. So the fact that they were able to make it that far just shows you that this team isn't playing. Like they are actual competitors, and if they don't take home, or if they take home the prize, which they mostly will for that region, they will be top competitors at the global land. And B4 Angels is, like you said, one of the teams that are trying to stay up there with that team because they competed in the main circuit as well. Unfortunately, they did go out much earlier, but again, just teams trying to get that main competitive experience.
Yeah.
I want to see. I want nerd emoji to make it to global so we can see Autumn FPS versus Crew Autumn. The Autumn face off would be pretty funny. But
no. I'm excited to see like when we go up to the Game Changers land, like what are the relationships that are going to be brought? Like, I mean, I'm
Between
assuming,
regions?
yeah, if it were me and I was on a pro team, right? I saw all these ladies that play Valorant, and I was like, I'd be like, oh my god, friends, and I just,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like, I mean, it'd be hard if somebody had like that language barrier, but like EMEA and NA, and possibly LATAM, like LATAM North, LATAM South, or Brazil, being able to kind of speak. I know some people know. I know some people know of different languages within the region they live in. Like I know some people in EMEA know French or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I'm excited to see, you know, the friendships that might be able to build. Like maybe G2 is gonna be BFFs with C9, or we're gonna be seeing, you know, Kiru be BFFs with Team Liquid, or I don't know, maybe that's just me.
No, I agree. I feel like they're gonna have like their own like little dinners and little like hangouts and everything off the scene. In the land, they're probably gonna be like, cursing each other outside a little bit. But I do expect some like good friendships to form and everything. So
Oh, yeah. No, I know that Mel has talked up the Team Liquid roster quite a bit, so there's already like some sort of not necessarily a relationship, but just like someone in awe of another team. So she's definitely gonna talk with that team and chat them up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm so looking forward to the land, but we have a long way to go.
oh yeah,
And
super.
a whole year. Oh
a
my god.
whole year. We have a lot to cover, and I'm so happy that I get to cover it with you ladies, that we get to learn more about each of the regions. Like we said, we have only been following NA, so now we get to learn more about each region, give more exposure to the teams, and all of the Game Changers scene. Just do it up. We just gotta get it as hype as possible and just carry it out to the end of the year. So anything
Absolutely.
y'all want to say before we close things out for tonight?
No, I'm good, except make sure you follow the Post Plant on our socials at Twitch, at Twitter, and at YouTube for more information on the Game Changer scene. Am I right, ladies?
Yeah, and
Am I right?
make sure to show some love to Betty, because
Exactly. She's
I
the
don't
button
know,
presser behind the scenes. I
she's
mean,
Oh
she's
my,
more
been
than
you're
that,
killing
on
obviously.
it.
point.
Yeah, she's been killing. I don't think there could have been anyone else that could have done this so perfectly. Honestly, on
She got
point.
those.
Yeah,
She got
literally.
those scene transitions down pat.
Yeah, no,
Exactly.
100%. So definitely glad you're on board, Betty. And like we've been saying, so stay tuned on our socials. I think we have a TikTok now. We're hoping to produce
Yay!
clips, more content, interviews, and again, just give the players
Yeah.
the exposure that they deserve.
Absolutely.
And just like, oh, another reminder that like the formatting for this one was a little bit different. For those who weren't here earlier, it was, the summary of what was going on last season and what we can expect coming up. But not that we weren't having conversation, we were totally having conversation, but we did definitely, give our own rundowns on each of the regions that we were delegated to, but it'll be more of a conversation the next time around. You can expect some guests to come on in the future as well. And I think the schedule that we're going with is going to be mostly Monday nights unless we have to make any changes, but we're going to do our best to be like 100% consistent on that. But yeah. Was there anything else anyone wants to say, or?
No.
Good.
No? Okay. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in, and I hope you all have a great night. Catch us next Monday, and keep an eye on our socials because we will announce the content of our upcoming episodes later this week.
Of course. And we hope to see you. Remember, follow the socials. You get to stay updated and everything.
Of course. All